The Murder of Aldo Moro, a cold case investigation into political corruption, deep state alliances, and the secret forces behind Italy's most shocking assassination. Introduction. The cold clarity of morning shattered as gunfire erupted on Via Fani. Rome woke, not to the measured tolling of church bells, but to the thunder of automatic weapons and the panicked cries of witnesses. The air hung thick with cordite. Bodies, 5 men in dark suits, lay sprawled beside their Alfa Romeo, blood pooling on the ancient cobblestones. From the wreckage, Aldo Moro, former prime minister and architect of Italy's most daring political compromise, was wrenched by masked men into a waiting car. Within seconds, the heart of the republic had been ripped out. By mid-morning, every radio in Italy hissed with the news. Aldo Moro, the man who dared to unite Christian Democrats and communists, had vanished into the labyrinth of terror. This was not a simple act of violence. The abduction of Aldo Moro on March 16, 1978, struck at the very foundation of Italian democracy. For 55 days, the country teetered on the edge, paralyzed by fear, confusion, and a creeping awareness that the rules of the game had changed forever. The kidnapping was not just a crime, it was a signal. In those frantic weeks, Italy became a chessboard for forces far larger than the Red Brigades, who claimed responsibility. The event marked a turning point, a shift in the tide not only for Italy but for all of Europe, shadowed by the Cold War. The reverberations of that morning still echo in the corridors of power, and in the quiet grief of families whose lives were shattered by decisions made in rooms they would never see. Yet, after decades of commissions, court cases, and confessions, the core mystery remains unresolved. Who truly orchestrated Moro's abduction and murder? Why did so many efforts to rescue him founder on inexplicable delays, misdirection, and convenient incompetence? What was the fundamental role of the Red Brigades, autonomous leftist zealots or puppets entangled in a web spun by intelligence agencies, secret societies, and foreign interests? The files are thick with contradictions and silences. Key witnesses have died, gone missing, or recanted their testimony. Official narratives splinter into a labyrinth of dead ends and deliberate obscurity. For every answer, a new question arises. You may wonder why I, Hugh Brent, have chosen to return to this case now, when so many have declared it closed. My reasons are both professional and personal. As a former intelligence operative, I spent years in the shadows of Cold War Europe, observing the machinery of covert operations, disinformation, and psychological warfare. I have seen firsthand how truth is twisted, how documents are fabricated, how men of conscience are broken in service to higher, often invisible, interests. My proximity to the theaters of influence, Rome palazzas, Berlin safe houses, Paris's embassies, granted me access to conversations and archives closed to most. Over the decades, I quietly compiled evidence that never made the newspapers, including testimonies from sources who risked everything to speak out, and a network of contact inside the very organizations whose fingerprints appear again and again in the Moro affair. Now retired, I am free to pursue the truth without fear or favor. This book is not another retelling of the Moro case. It is an investigation driven by newly declassified documents, Italian-language sources neglected by English-speaking authors, and first-hand testimonies from operatives, journalists, and even the families left behind. Here, you will find the most evidence-driven account yet published, one that refuses to be satisfied with the official narrative or the convenient scapegoats offered at each turn. My mission is clear: to expose the hidden actors, covert alliances, and deep state mechanisms that manipulated Italy's fate in the spring of 1978. We will trace the covert funding trails that led from the Vatican Bank's shadowy vaults to the Red Brigade safe houses. We will follow the movement of secret societies like the P2 Lodge and chart the influence of foreign intelligence, SISMI, CIA, and MI6, whose operations shaped the chaos on Italy's streets. We will examine the role of psychological warfare, media manipulation, and mafia logistics. We will weigh the evidence of high-ranking betrayal in Rome and Washington and confront the uncomfortable possibility that Moro's fate was decided not in his cell but in the smoke-filled rooms of Allied capitals. The structure of the book mirrors the complexity of the case. We begin on Via Fani, in the chaos of the kidnapping, then move outward, through the corridors of Italian power, into the clandestine world of Gladio and stay-behind networks, across the Atlantic to Washington's war rooms and London's MI6 offices, and into the gold-lined offices of the Vatican Bank. Along the way, we return always to the human cost, the families waiting for news that never came, the police and politicians caught between conflicting orders, the ordinary Italians whose faith in democracy was shattered. You, the reader, are not asked to accept these findings on faith. Instead, I invite you to question, to weigh competing testimonies, to examine the documents and draw your informed conclusions. Each chapter provides the analytical tools and context needed to sift fact from fiction, to separate the plausible from the possible. Skepticism is not only welcome, it is required.